So today on the show, we're talking about issue of Pollard. Is Pollard the right platform for dialogue? Guys, please do request the mic this morning. Want to hear from you in terms of that. Pollard, is Pollard the right platform for dialogue? I was reading one of the newspapers, Izolo, and they're speaking about issue of Pollard. And the NCA president, that's Labo Maduku, spoke about this in length to say this is the correct platform for dialogue. And also, I was following the press conference where the president, His Excellency Emmerson Mnangagwa, was there announcing the cabinet. He said, we're going to continue with Pollard. So we ask you this morning, guys, is Pollard the right platform for dialogue? Please do request the mic this morning. We want to hear from you guys, your sentiments and your contributions, your thoughts and your opinions around this topic this morning.
Yeah, quite interesting, Brighton. I know people had a lot of, comments about Pollard and all that, but, would like to see now, want to have an assessment to say what is it that Pollard has done. And when you look at the structuring of Pollard itself and what it seeks to address and, all that happens there with Pollard, do you think that it is the right platform for dialogue? I see we've been joined by guests this morning.
But also in terms of dialogue, we've been hearing this thing before elections, sometimes even after elections, we say dialogue, and so on. What is the right platform? If Pollard is not the right platform, what is the right platform or channels for dialogue? Who should sit in this table for dialogue? Which parties should sit in this table for dialogue? Who are the 2 people, the 3 people, or the 10 people that are supposed to sit in this platform for dialogue? Is it the church, the CSO? Is it the young people? Is it the political? Who should sit for dialogue? So should Pollard also include the church, the civil society? Who should sit for dialogue? Let's go to our first speaker there this morning. Good morning, Salani.
Hey, good morning, Brighton and North. Sorry, my little one is just woken up. Is it okay if I come after Jabulo? I do apologize.
It's okay, ma'am. Let's go to Jabulo. Jabulo, good morning.
Good morning, and thank you, Salan, for the honor. We always say honor ladies first, but thank you. Good morning, Brighton and Nonhlanhla. Thank you so much, guys, for raising this topic. I feel it is a very, very important topic for us to discuss, because one of the issues that are there is that we should be asking ourselves is Pollard constitutional, or is just something that they are just doing on the side to try and include everyone in those dialogues where they have those political dialogues, and what powers does Pollard have or it's given when they pass certain resolutions? Because if Pollard was very effective in the previous term that Mnangagwa had, we shouldn't have had this sham of an election that we had, because all the participants of Pollard also were participating in these very same elections that we had. So if Pollard was effective in Zimbabwe, I think they should have dealt with things that have to do with the Electoral Act, the implementation of electoral reforms in Zimbabwe. But we saw that Pollard was not effective, because I've listened to people that were part of Pollard, the likes of Shumba. I've listened to the other guys that were part of Pollard, and I've asked, even Monzora has spoken about those issues. They says, no. The challenge with Pollard is that when you got there, the levels of discussion are not the same. When you're approaching ZANU-PF looks like you are going to be like beggars to them when you're approaching them, because they are the ones that are in power and you want your opinion to be heard. So they become like the one that are facilitating this platform for you. Yet it's supposed to be a platform where every political party is treated at an equal level and every voice is heard from an equal point of view. So I feel Pollard is not effective to me. And if Pollard was going to be effective, they should have created that space in the parliament where these opposition political contestants losing political they are given their space as opposition leaders in parliament to say, no, we have different oppositions that are, so that there is a dialogue which includes everyone there in parliament. Because the challenge which is here is you'll find that some of the people that were in Poland, even when things were going wrong, they were quick to clap hands from Mnangagwa. Like when you look at Professor Maduku, NCA was the first to issue out a statement and say, no, we congratulate Emmerson Mnangagwa, we're happy with the process, they were peaceful. But already you listen to SADC, you listen to everyone who's around, they say, no, this election was not free and fair. This election was a sham of an election. But you already have someone who is a political contestant to say, coming up and agreeing with what happened, and it was bringing to me. I was feeling like Pollard is a place where everyone gets bribed, gets benefits, and there is nothing that really tangible as political parties that they are really fighting for on that platform. Because if they were really fighting, they were supposed to be up in arms against the way the election was conducted, especially those that were in Poland, because they should have safeguarded their own future, and they should safeguarded the future of the children of Zimbabwe, and safeguarded the principles that guide us as Zimbabweans, and safeguarded the constitution of Zimbabwe. But it looks like everyone, most of the guys that were in Poland, came out celebrating the way the elections were done. So it raises a lot of questions. Anyway, let me leave it here. Thank you so much, Brighton and Nonhlanhla, for the chance to share our views.
Well, thank you so much, and Jabulo, for sharing your thoughts on Pollard and the composition of Pollard as well. Quite interesting comments there. Now, maybe let's move on to KK. Good morning, KK.
Morning, side. I appreciate the platform. I appreciate. Thank you for it, and I would like to appreciate those who have made submissions for me. Well, Pollard is a creation of our political actors, and I always have a problem with solutions that sort of seek to come from political actors as opposed to solutions that are coming from the ground up. I think, in my view, platforms like these ones are key. I mean, technology is advanced, society so much that we need to appreciate more platforms where we can engage as citizens and basically guide the discussions between our political actors or amongst our political actors, so they are in tune and they are locking step with where we are as the citizens. So I think it begins with us. So there's a process we seem to want to bypass or short circuit, and it's never going to work. We need to start the engagement. Politics must follow where we are as citizens of Zimbabwe, if we are going to solve this standoff that we continuously have post every election. So there's a problem with this election. A lot of things did come up. A lot of things need to be ironed out that are not consistent with the constitution, what we've agreed on as Zimbabweans. Again, we assist with the constitution, which, for the most part, started off with or was advanced on the grounds of partisanship and our politics. Well, that's the case now. There's nothing we can do on that, but we can at least start to see the issues that have been exposed, in terms of events that have happened in the past, post the coming up of these elections. So post the coming up with this constitution. So we've got elections that haven't really worked out the way that we wanted to. We've seen a lot of litigation around the elections. So we need to be asking ourselves questions as to whether this is working, and then we need to then see whether we can come up with platforms to solve the problem. Ideally, as we've agreed on, as in the constitution, we've got the parliament as a platform. We've got legally constituted platforms according to our constitution. The the political Pollard does not have really bearing on the exact changes we want to see. So yes, it can be a discussion platform, yeah, but in terms of its effectiveness, in terms of where Pollard meets with the legal framework and the structures that we've already put in place, it can be a little bit dicey there, because there's no requirement for our institutions and our laws to listen to Pollard. So it's a discussion, yes, that we are paying for as taxpayers, but without really a real benefit that is legislated around it, that can actually bring to life the issues that are discussed in Pollard. So I think we need to place emphasis on the institutions that we've already put in place, because they are the ones that can actually bring about the effective change we are looking for. There are lots of issues that need to be discussed. The FARS issue, how that came about, and obviously the optics of it. Some people argue it was this and that and the other, but really, for me and from where I stand, it was a tool that did not paint our elections in the best of lights. And as a result of that, you will always have these legitimate issues that are coming up. We need real discussions around that. It should be noted. There are key issues that we need to talk about. I mean, the arrest of Mkwanas, whatever he did, the spectacular arrest of him at the time of elections, at the time of the height of issues like that, there are issues that we really need to discuss. This continued incarceration of Job Scala, it's not putting the country in the best of lights. So we need to be discussing around. These are key issues. They can be discussed at Pollard, but Pollard does not have the relevant tools on its disposal to actually effect any kind of change in terms of the structures that we've already put in place. So it's something that I think we need to reevaluate as citizens and say, we are paying for this thing. I mean, each time when these people meet, they have coffee, they have whatever they have. They're not taking it out of their pockets. It's coming out of our pockets, and yet it was never passed through Parliament. It was never agreed on within the institutions we've already put in place. So I think we need to reevaluate it, and we need to find more platforms where, if political actors come up with something that is on the side that does not benefit for us, or that we don't see the substance of it, we should be allowed to then push back on that and say this is not. So we need to build more platforms, and we need to build more platforms where we can actually engage in a useful manner, not just talk, but in a useful manner, engage on a useful manner that can yield a real change in terms of where we have actually put in place a constitution as the only way, and the legal framework as the only way to actually effect change. One of the key things that I need for us to negotiate and continue engaging is when we bring the politics to the people. So I think it is the onus is on us to push our legislators to bring the politics back to the communities, back to through devolution. Devolution is there in the constitution. It's something that we have been strong on, and we've actually had it in the constitution, which is the highest, so basically we need to see it cascade downwards. We need communities engaging on their level, at their level, regarding what is affecting their communities, how far has affected Chirumanzi, how far has affected, and the Chirumanzi people should be able to engage on that. So we need to bring the politics back to the people. I think the best way to do that is to bring devolution to the people, where they discuss issues pertaining to their societies and communities where they actually dwell, where things are happening, you understand? So, and then whatever platform we then can have for our political actors, it follows the discussions that are happening in the communities themselves. This Pollard thing is so far divorced from the reality of our day-to-day life, like the North Pole to the South Pole. So I don't see its relevance in terms of actually bringing change to our people. I'm gonna rest there for now.
Well, thanks so much, KK, for that contribution this morning. If you're just joining us this morning, I'm talking about Pollard. Is Pollard the right platform for dialogue? Remember, a few days ago, there was an article coming from the mainstream media. So it was speaking around issues of Pollard and also quoting His Excellency after he was announcing the cabinet state house. His Excellency said that we are very happy that we created this platform, referring to the dialogue, to the Pollard, right? So Pollard was created in after 2018 elections, comprising of 17 presidential candidates, our contest out of 23, right? So that's Pollard was formed in 2018, after 2018 elections, they comprising of 17 candidates who participated there. But also the president said he was very happy around this platform called Pollard. They're going to continue. I'm just quote him, says, the same facility that we created, so will sons and daughters of our motherland shall come back again, sit around the table and discuss ways of taking the country forward to the attainment of Vision 2030 of an empowered upper middle income society. Quite interesting. They're coming from the press. Let's go to another speaker this morning. Posalan, good morning.
Thank you so much, Brighton and Nonhlanhla. Honestly, you guys, motherhood, pause. There's no pause to button. So thank you for having such an inclusive space. And Zenzele, honestly, you're doing a fantastic job with your team. Remember, God is in it, Antika. I just wanted to say, Kuti, when we look at the issue of Pollard, we're talking about dialogue here. And what people have to understand is this. If FAS itself, which is a registered trust, obviously associated with ZANU-PF, is seen as a platform to benefit ZANU-PF, I mean, the same should be said for Pollard. Right? You look at who created it, who are the people who formed it, and they're politicians themselves. So if these politicians are creating a platform where they're saying they want other political leaders to come in so that they can dialogue, is that the right move? Because what you already know, or what comes to our mind, is they're doing it for their benefit. And that's where Pollard becomes a problem. That's why any political parties that join that Pollard are regarded as ZANU-PF, ZANU-PF, what you call it, workers, basically. What people need to understand, and those who created Pollard have to understand, is if we're talking of dialogue, it's like, look at the environment. This is not dialogue you have like in your household where the wife and the husband have a problem, so you decide to go to your relatives and atete and what. Remember, these people are impartial. At the end of the day, what they want to make sure happens is the benefit of the marriage, right? To make sure that everything's okay. Why? Because they have vested interest in that marriage. So it is their job to look at things on both sides to ensure that the marriage continues. But when you look at Pollard, it's not an issue of there's a husband and simply equity, there's a husband and a wife who have a problem, so let's fix it. It's an issue where the husband wants full control. Not to work with the wife. That's not what we're getting in Pollard. Pollard is, you guys in Pollard need to whitewash us as ZANU-PF as like a party that is able to work with those that we may disagree with. But at the end of the day, are they truly working with you, or they're using you? It's an issue of we are using you for our good. Apana, that equal balance. So that in itself causes a very big problem. And even myself, whenever I hear someone saying, oh, they're part of Pollard, red flags. There are red flags in my head because of the nature of Pollard. Like, if you look at, have they achieved anything? What have they achieved, really? I mean, what's the whole purpose of it? Because I haven't seen any achievements coming from any of the political parties that have joined it. If anything, we had a situation where people who joined it ended up leaving it disgruntled, or they left it, smaller than they came in. It's like it takes away a part of your soul, bit by bit by bit. And this is something that we have to recognize. So as much as we can talk about why Pollard is not the right platform, I think people should, when they're giving their contributions, should also talk about then what is the way forward. Because that's what we want. If something is not working, we have to start talking about what can work better. Because at the end of the day, let's not run away from the fact that to solve Zimbabweans' problems, it's going to be Zimbabweans working together. It's going to be about Zimbabweans dialoguing, talking. It's not going to be about you do your thing, I'll do my thing, and then we'll see what happens. Because we've tried it, it's not working. I mean, we've got two of the biggest political parties, and they fail to even communicate or talk nicely about each other. All you hear is insults over on a regular. And now you've seen that it's trickled down to their supporters, where even a person just interacting, even right now, Brighton and Nonhlanhla, if I was to interact with, who can I mention here, Padari or Professor Feresu, who are known to be ZANU-PF people, I'm already labeled a ZANU-PF person. Why? Because I want to communicate with them. We're talking about dialogue here. And if we cannot expect dialogue from ourselves as citizens and be okay with people from different political jackets or no political jackets at all, communicating on solutions or ways in which we can improve our country. But all we can say is, oh, you're talking to these ZANU-PF people, it means you're ZANU-PF. Then we have a bigger problem here. So we can't expect, because the same thing is the same thing that is said about lawyers. I had a space yesterday where lawyers were telling me that they get, abused, criticized, because you're a lawyer with a profession. You're probably possibly Triple C related. You work with Triple C, or you've got a position in Triple C. And the moment the Triple C see you with a ZANU-PF client, and say, wapanduka. Hey, oh, hell breaks loose. Look at the way it is. It's like Zimbabweans themselves are telling you, Kuti, you cannot talk to so-and-so. If you do so, it means you're not part of us. Do you know this whole kind of bullying mechanism that is in our systems, and we don't understand it? And then we expect our leaders to then create platforms. This is not bullying as well attached to it. We are not seeing it happening. But what I would suggest in my closing sentiments there would be the body needs to be independent. If you're going to create a platform for dialogue, let's not use the word dialogue. It should actually be a peace movement. We need peacemakers. A platform, Yema peacemakers, those who understand, Kuti, we need peace. We need people, irregardless of the problems they have with each other, irregardless of Umaruguti, hey, you wakanti torera MDC, wakadai. Because remember, these leaders have got my personal grinds to bear, and they are using us, the supporters, to do it. Vanwanema issues with each other, personal issues, whether it's Inina want to be president, you've lied that you're president, or Inina wakan torera my political party, now I will never do anything to support you. We have a big problem where people's egos are entering into the politics of the day, and they're affecting the way the country is run, they're affecting the way the supporters behave, they're affecting us all. So what we need is my peacemaker, someone who's independent, not a politician, to open a space up for dialogue. That won't work. No politician should open a space up for dialogue, especially when we're discussing you, the politicians. Rather, there has to be citizens which are elected to open a dialogue space, who are impartial, citizens that don't take sides, that become part of that dialogue, that allow all the political parties to come in, knowing, Kuti, no one is going to be biased against the other. That is what is required. So in my humble submission, Pollard needs to go. We need an independent platform where all these political parties, regardless of their disagreements, come together, and then we create an environment where we hear each and all of them. Not just one side, but all of them. And then at the end of it, we come to resolutions and decide for the benefit of the citizens. I've said this before, and I'll say it again in my landing, that these leaders are meant to be our servants. They are not demigods to us. They should not dictate the way we do things or the way platforms are opened up to discuss citizenry issues. They need to understand that they should take their mandate from us, the citizens. And the day they do that, believe you me, we'll be in a better position. But as for Pollard, Pollard must go. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Boss Salani, for sharing your thoughts around Pollard and the way forward on dialogue when it comes to, political tolerance and moving the country forward. Well, let's hear from Doc Liangra. Good morning.
Good morning, how are you? Thank you very much for hosting us. My first contribution is what have we achieved as Pollard? What Boss Salani said is 100% correct. And I also believe the first people that must have dialogue are the citizens. Every single person in Zimbabwe must have dialogue before we go to the politicians. Because the moment we have dialogue as citizens, we are going to be able to understand what we want as citizens, not what the politicians want from us. So you'd find that right now our politics is very toxic, And I've never heard of a political leader from one of the big parties, ZANU-PF, CCC, telling their supporters to stop insulting other Zimbabweans. So I think the first dialogue should be between us Zimbabweans. Once Zimbabweans achieve dialogue as citizens without the politicians, then we tell the politicians what we want and not what they want. But the moment we let this process be led by politicians, we're going to be doing the same thing over and over and over again. And there is no way where ZANU-PF is going to say, let's have another dialogue somewhere. ZANU-PF's dialogue is in Poland. And do you see yourself, CCC, going to Poland? So the dialogue needs to start with us citizens. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Dr. Lengra, for that contribution this morning. Guys, let me just go through the comments coming through from our listeners this morning. Prosper Masevi says, on paper, it's the best platform for dialogue. It's a democratic way of saying, I appreciate the difference in political ideology and philosophy, but let's come together and build a nation. The execution is the one thing that is wrong, in my view, where there is a big brother mantra. And then Jabulo, okay. All right. Someone says, Mliso can do the job. I don't know what they're talking about there. And then someone said, the right platform for get cars for losers. And then, yeah, those are the comments coming through this morning around issue of politics. Guys, if you're just joining us, we're asking you guys, is Pollard the right platform for dialogue? If we are going to have dialogue, who should sit on that table for dialogue? Let's go to another speaker there this morning. Freelancer, good morning.
Good morning, Brighton. How are you this morning, guys? Good morning. Yeah, Brighton. First and foremost, I think we need to look at Pollard itself. Who should sit down and talk? Yeah, you asked that question. That is a very good question. I think they have to involve. Even though me, I'm against this GNU thing. I don't think it works. My personal view. But you mentioned churches. I also include the likes of the SADC, the likes of a African Union to come and help on this. I don't think as a country at our own we can make it easier for ourselves. So I think including of the churches, SADC, African Union, that would be good. Then when it comes to now to the Zimbabwe Government of National Unity, which I think it happened in 2019, what did you see there? What were the good? What were the advantages of it, and what were the disadvantages of it? Right now, we look at the political parties of Zimbabwe. The main party is ZANU-PF. The other main party is CCC. I, as a Zimbabwean, don't expect to see some other political parties who knew they do gambling here. The likes of Maduku, the likes of Tambawanyoka, something like that, Linda Masarira. What did they get after the election? They put their names, in running so that they knew that there's going to be a dispute in this election. So they want to benefit. Who should benefit on this GNU now? I've gone over the Pollard now. I'm on GNU. Who should benefit? This should benefit the main political parties, which is ZANU-PF and CCC. I don't expect the likes of Maduku. They didn't get anything. I don't expect the likes of Monzola. Didn't get anything. But they do that because they know that, that is the only way in Zimbabwe where they can. As Salani said that some people, they are only doing for their stomachs. So I think this GNU thing, it doesn't work because it's temporal. Yes, it happened in 2000. 2009. A lot of people celebrated when Tendai Biti introduced the US dollars education system, whatever it called that it well, but it went to a standstill. Later on. So personally, I don't think it's the right thing. But what can you do? That's what I think. I think if it works, it must include the main political parties. If it didn't get any seat, then it doesn't work. Thank you.
Well, thanks so much, Philip, for highlighting that. Yeah, Philip says that didn't work. Also shit on the dialogue issue and is saying no to GNU. So the issue of dialogue, again, I think for me it's a broad issue. Look at what happened that day at Papavlu Stadium.
Yeah.
Again, many things are hanging up, right? No one's speaking about those issues. Who should talk about these issues? I spoke earlier to say, should the church be part of this dialogue? Should civil society be part of this dialogue? Who should be part of this dialogue? Is it only political parties or should it include other players as well? Let's go to another speaker there this morning.
Well, let's hear from Tato. Good morning. Tato Kacheni, good morning. Okay, maybe let's try the native son of Layo.
Good morning, Siswami. Thank you so much for the opportunity. By 24 right? You know, good people, let's start with the definition of a dialogue. A dialogue is a conversation between two parties or more. Now, let's come to a point where someone says, what do you think can put pressure on me? If you are not satisfied with this minister, then go form your own government. Does it sound like someone who is willing to go on a dialogue? Because there's a difference between when you go sit down on the chair and you start to listen to what someone is saying, and you also start to bring in your point. That's a dialogue. Now, when you go to a table with someone who says, who do you think can put pressure? Because if the main organizer of this does not appreciate what we call a dialogue and would tell you straight in your face that, who do you think can put pressure on me? That tells you that it can never be a dialogue. In my view, Pollard is a group of yes men who are there for their own stomach. How do you even define to say it's a national dialogue where the other key national player is not even there? How do you even say we can have a political dialogue where it will be fair and we'll sit down and talk and fair when even the courts themselves are not even fair? Where the courts are supposed to be fair and they are not, there is nothing else that can ever be fair. So I view anyone who says, hey, a dialogue is needed politically. Yes, it's needed, but it's not going to happen, you know. And Brighton, you asked a very important question to say what we saw in BF needs a dialogue. But the people who are supposed to be in that dialogue, I do not see them coming up with anything tangible as solutions in that dialogue. They are more likely to do what we have seen before, where it's just empty promises. We will do this, we will do this, we will do this. If they fail to have a dialogue about, the people of Matabeleland, what makes them today to stand up and say, let's have a political dialogue that will develop the country? The issues of Matabeleland are still standing today, and we will never have a dialogue in this country. It is just a carry-on business. You know, if you have ever been to football where the ref, I think that's what happens even in BF where there's a free kick and the ref says, carry on, there's nothing else. So in that case, I would say Pollard is a group of yes men. Thank you so much, Nyabo, for it.
Well, thank you so much, Next Son of Fulai. But I'm looking at an article here this morning coming from one of the newspapers. National Constitutional Assembly NCA leader Labo Matuku yesterday said there is no need to restructure the political actors dialogue, Pollard, saying it remains the best platform for political parties to contribute to national development. That's coming from NCA leader there, Labo Matuku. Let's go to another speaker this morning. You change your usernames every time. Topsa, good morning.
Good morning, Brighton. Good morning, Nonhlanhla, and all the listeners and speakers that have come before. My contribution is that people seem to, ZANU-PF has shown us what they are about, time and time again since 1980. ZANU-PF's mission is to attain and retain political power by any means. And they have done this, quite intently and without any shame in terms of the methods that they have used. If you go back to the start of this whole process, even before the elections, there were quite glaring issues with regards to the voters' role, with regards to the delimitation, with regards to how ZANU-PF interfered in opposition politics and literally wrestled the opposition party and handed it to their preferred candidate, starved the opposition of funding, and right now, every day, and they then have the audacity to want to set the political agenda. And I think it's high time that the opposition stopped engaging with any of this. In hindsight, I think they shouldn't have participated in the election in the first place. It's pointless having debates about, what are the merits or demerits of the cabinet that has been selected. And now we're talking about Pollard. To discuss what? ZANU-PF is not interested in relinquishing any inch of its power to anyone. And they don't even care what anyone actually says. So how are you going to have a political dialogue with people like that? I think, given what they've proven, we have an equally committed but diametrically opposite stance with regards to this strategy is. Because at the end of the day, we've got a disputed election. We've got a crisis of legitimacy. So even if you've got a cabinet, even if you're going to have Pollard, we've got these reports that have been produced by many international observers that say the election was a sham. So this idea of debating Pollard, this, Pollard, that, I think it doesn't really address the core issues that we have. And it's a little bit disappointing that we don't seem to have any semblance of direction or actual motivation or clear strategies about what the opposition is going to do. And I think obviously part of this is the strategy of ZANU-PF. Our MPs from the opposition have been sworn in. A lot of them will be quite interested in getting the perks that they will get from being MPs. So already there's some kind of division in the opposition because people want to take their seats. The councillors have taken their seats. They've even elected mayors. So I don't know how are you going to walk that back and say the election was disputed. So maybe if the opposition is not going to do anything, they then need to accept and say they will re-strategize for the next election. But it's all doom and gloom. There's nothing that is inspiring by anything that's coming out from, the ZANU-PF strategies. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Yengwayo, for that contribution. If you're just joining us, guys, on this morning on Asake, today we're talking about Pollard. Is Pollard the right platform for dialogue? I'm seeing a comment here. Someone says, Pollard is a waste. As long as the solution is originating from political players, it's a dead horse. Kukura Wundi, 0 deliverables.
Yeah, let's go to another speaker there this morning. Pipi Jimpo for Global Vuganjan. Pipi Jimpo. Go ahead, sir.
Good morning, Brighton. Good morning, Nonhlanhla. Good morning, everybody on the space. I hope we all well where we are. I think as pertained to the topic that is in place here, I think personally Pollard is an irrelevant grouping. It is really an irrelevant grouping. There is nothing that is going to come out from that grouping. I think maybe if it should have been composed of maybe civic, independent and civic organizations and citizens in general, it was going to make sense, because right now the thing was formed by the current president, the current disputed president, of which those people that are participating in that institution or grouping, there is nothing that they are going to raise up, or there is nothing that they are going to disagree with, as long as that thing will be pointing at wrongs that are being done by the current government. So I think Pollard, in that sense, is very irrelevant. Pollard is only good for the current president because it has in some way one way or another managed to keep him in power. Pollard is good for people like Matuku because they are benefiting from it. Sadly, Pollard it becomes an enhancer of more and more suffering of the ordinary citizens. What I would say again is that I heard somebody talking of the issue of boycotting elections. It was a very difficult a position, because yes, other parties could have boycotted, but look at this, when now soon after elections the leader of an opposition party, which is Matuku, comes out and say Pollard is the right way to go. Right, if other parties would have boycotted elections, obviously Matuku and his party were going to participate in that election and legitimize ZANU-PF. So we are having a problem. This should start right from the citizens. I think it's high time people should start putting their differences aside and look for the very proper channels to try and pursue this issue. Otherwise, if we are made as citizens to fall for it, then we are being taken for fools. Thank you, Brighton. Thank you, Nonhlanhla, and everybody.
Well, thank you so much, Baba Mpofu, for your contribution this morning. Let's hear from Banga. Good morning, Bang.
Good morning. How are you? I think I'm audible there.
Yes, you are audible. Please do go ahead with your contribution.
Okay. Thank you. I think if we look back from independence, actually, ZANU-PF did not win the elections. They rigged the elections. It took almost 7 to some years to come to the Unity Accord. Let's look back here, the guys of Dumiso Dabengwa, may so rest in peace, Lookout Masuku, and other guys who were part of the negotiating from 1982 up to 1987 when Unity Accord was there. Then if we look at the commission as well, which the book is not yet there, you will not find it in any archive for the Gukura wound as well. Why was that book after the commission is still not there up to now? It's because ZANU-PF does not need any ground to discuss, to lose anything. There is no table that is needed to discuss. Okay, after that, if we look at 1987, after the Unity Accord, who benefited? It is ZANU-PF after all. And where is ZAPU? ZAPU was, it went under the mud, never to be seen again. People were killed. ZANU-PF started to put its own people even if you look at what is current now, I was just looking at, I'm not tribalistic, but how many people from the Matabeleland in the poor, the worst cabinet ministers that are there, people who can speak the other language, from Chipinge, from Manicaland, from what, there is no rationale for what ZANU-PF have done to the general people of Zimbabwe, to us in general. If we look at the history after that, since 2000, MDC have been winning the elections. Up to 2008, 2008, people died. It was a mistake. The greatest mistake that the party did was to come up with a government of national unity. I believe that if ZANU-PF was late by that time, January, February, even their coffers were painless by then. There was no money even to move to make their own mission. And they said, oh, let's discuss after they're running their one-man wars. Therefore, my notion is we do not need that Pollard thing. Only need to is back what this confused president have said, to say, if you think you won, sleep and what, we are continuing. Let them continue. What we only have to do is for those, some of the candidates that lost in rural, we have to come up with something. They have to be visible. Even after losing the elections, they have to be visible. Try to change, focusing towards what is needed. Then we focus on that and we work towards what is coming on. If we look to say we need to discuss with a crocodile, there is no negotiation with a crocodile in water. One thing is, you are going to go in a day or in the other day. Look now, who are those who are going to the courts and whatever. They did a lot. They did a lot that we know. I traveled from Namibia to go and cast my vote, and I have to come to drive back again to Namibia. But looking at what they did really to steal the votes and everything, and you say you want to discuss, once there is a table of discussion with the ZANU-PF, know that our MPs, some of the people whom we think are better to stand as better leaders tomorrow, will miss them, they will die. I remember what happened after unit of accord, how many people that we lost from the Matabeleland region, who were so focused, who went either to the Hiroseka provincial or who went missing, because the ground for ZANU-PF to swallow our own people will be fair and good for them, will be favorable to them. Let's not entertain anything that comes to ZANU-PF to say, let's discuss. Let's look at the beneficiary of the Pollard. Who are the beneficiaries? There's Matuku strategy with his own strategy. Monzora without any. Let's talk of Imunanga ZANU-PF without anything. And how do you discuss with those dandaheads to say, let's discuss? They don't have the people. If they think they want to run, let them run. But one thing the party that should do now is to have parallel structures, to say there's a minister, there's a shadow minister for this and this and this. Those are the things that I expect that our leaders should come up to say, Shadow Minister for Health is this. If these poor, their own Obadiah Moyes and whoever did their own things wrongly, our shadow ministers will say, we have this and this. They were supposed, then we focus. And those who lost the elections in rural, we are very free to do like what we did last time. We fund them. They come out with projects. What do you think we can do? We do those projects, not to say we are to get a ground to discuss, a table to discuss with the ZANU-PF. That will not work. We'll lose more people if we try to do that. That's my suggestion. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much for that contribution, Banga, this morning. Guys, we're trying to wrap up the space this morning. Let's go to Shangani Warrior, are going to wrap up the space for us this morning. Please do go ahead with the contribution, sir.
Thank you, Nonland and Brighton. I much appreciated. Yeah, I was listening to the space and I think, what? For something else to be created for you. So as far as I'm concerned, Pollard is the right place because everybody else bar one is there. It's very, very important. Everybody else bar one is there. You therefore can't say that all the other players who are there are mad and inept and only this one person is correct. And it's always the one single person who complains about losses in any elections, who complains about being cheated in anything, who complains about having all the brilliant ideas but never proposes them. But yet when other people come up with ideas, all you do is oppose. We need to get out of that zone of constant opposition of things that are being tried to be done for the benefit of our country. And we will go far. And I think it needs to get into people's heads that, guys, listen, Pollard is there as it currently is. It is there to stay. That is the only place that has been afforded for all political players to go and have dialogue and discuss things that are positive for Zimbabwe. If you feel this other guy who just came off Banga was saying, oh, you know, all these things about unity accord, etc. Sometimes when you're being asked questions, it's good to actually answer the question and not to bring in any other riffraff, right, that you want to add in to try and give flavor to your submission. Because otherwise, you know what, really and truly, because I'm going to stick to the topic. The topic is Pollard the right place for dialogue? And as far as I'm concerned, yes, it is. And thank you very much for the time site. Much appreciated.
Well, thanks so much, Shanganoria, for your contributions this morning. Guys, thanks so much for joining us, guys, from 8:30 to now, discussing the issue of Pollard. Is Pollard the right platform for dialogue? We respect all your views, all your contributions, and also your time for joining us this morning. Anyway, it's a wrap for this morning.
Yeah, we'll be back. I remember every weekday from 8:30 to 9:30 to discuss with you guys. So we look forward to having you next week as well as we continue with the discussions. And as we said earlier on, don't forget to follow site ZW for more of our programs. Remember today at 2 p.m. I'll be having a discussion on we'll be exploring the attitudes towards women in politics during the 2023 election period, that is pre, during, and post the election. So please join us at 2 p.m. today to talk about that as well. We'd like to hear your views and your contributions on that as well.
Anyway, guys, thanks so much for joining us this morning. From myself, Brighton, it's been love hanging out with you this morning.
And Nonhlanhla Mapigwa, it's bye for now.